Good morning and welcome to Daily Red Devil for all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. And as always, we're back with another massive show to bring you guys this morning. But before we jump into that, please do smash a like on the video and please do subscribe to the channel if you are new. So on the show today, we are going to be heavily focusing on Erik ten Hag's quotes from his press conference that was embargoed for 12 o'clock last night. Now, obviously, we focused on the daytime press conference yesterday, and then today we've had a whole another press conference come out. So if anybody's unaware how it usually works in a press conference, they record it in two sections. One section usually goes out at about lunchtime, the day before the game. So it went out about 1 o'clock UK time yesterday. And then there's an embargoed section, which goes out usually around 10, 11 p.m. The following later on that day, right? So we're going to go through that. Obviously, it's heavily focused around Jadon Sancho. He's asked literally about 15 questions about Sancho, and there's some really interesting answers, which of course we will break down and we will discuss together. He's also asked about Sofyan Amrabat, which of course we will talk about as well. We've got a couple of other things to touch on as well, but it's mainly going to be focused around that. Obviously, it is a match day. I cannot wait to watch Manchester United play today. 3 o'clock kickoff. We will be live doing a watch along from about 2:30 p.m. UK time. So do get involved in that if you are up for the watch along. Right, let's start off with this Jadon Sancho stuff then. Now, as I said, he's been asked many things, and we'll start with the biggest one. We'll start with the most important thing. Ten Hag is asked a direct question: will Jadon Sancho ever play for Manchester United again? I mean, that is a massive question, isn't it? And Erik ten Hag responds with the following. He says, I don't know. I am sitting here. Tomorrow we have a big game. We're going into that new block of games. Many games in a condensed period. I focus on that. So, I mean, that's mad, isn't it? That he's pretty much just come out saying that he doesn't know whether Jadon Sancho will play for Manchester United again. I mean, I don't blame him, to be honest, because he's putting the ball in Jadon Sancho's court. You know, if he comes out and says, yeah, I'm sure we can make up, I'm sure it'll be all right, then that just makes him look weak, doesn't it? So for him to come out and say, I don't know whether Jadon Sancho will play for Manchester United again, that only makes him look stronger to the other players. It makes him look stronger to the fans, to the press. Everybody knows that you can't mess around with Erik ten Hag now. And that's what we need at Manchester United. We've had too many years of this kind of Ollie mentality where everyone was friends, everyone was smiley. If you have a bad game, you're not criticised. If you have a good game, like, you know, I mean, it's just, there never was any level set. And it's taken Erik ten Hag a year to start to rectify that. But it's going to take way longer to instill that mentality across this whole squad, because some of these players have just been living in, you know, dream mode for the last few seasons of just doing hardly anything and getting away with it. So I rate Erik ten Hag for what he's doing. He then says about what his thoughts were ultimately on Jadon Sancho calling him a liar, which is, again, was a mad question. He said, you know, the interviewer just said, you know, what do you think about Jadon Sancho? He pretty much called you a liar on Twitter. And Ten Hag responded saying, I am always honest. You have to keep things inside. But when I am asked the question, I will be honest. Now, I'm not sure what I make of that one entirely. I do think he's being honest about the Jadon Sancho situation, but there has been quite a few times where in the press he said something, but we know that he means something different. So yeah, I'm not sure about that one. I don't know how much I believe of that, because obviously, I mean, yesterday he came out and said that Harry Maguire is a very good player and he's very happy to have him. I mean, maybe that's true. Only he knows, but I just don't believe that Erik ten Hag genuinely thinks Harry Maguire is a very good player and that he's very happy to have him. Like, do you really believe that? We accepted an offer in the summer of £30 million. If he was a very good player and you were very happy to keep him, why would Erik ten Hag allow West Ham's offer to be accepted? You know? That's what doesn't add up to me. So I'm a little bit unsure about that bit of it, but let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. He's then asked about how much of a big thing this is within the club. You know, is everybody talking about it and all the rest of it? And Erik ten Hag says, I know, of course, with fans, it's all the talk. With the journalists, it's all the talk. But with the players, it is not the talk. They want to just perform. So that's positive. You know, he's deflected the situation, ultimately saying that it's just kind of what's being spoken about in the press. It's what's being spoken about in fan bases and all the rest of it. But within the actual club, you know, they're mainly focusing on football, which is, of course, the most important thing here, because that's what we need. You know, that's what we need to focus on. We need to win games. What else does he say? Right, let's have a look. And then he also says about what his principles are, because obviously that's important as well, what his mentality is. And Erik ten Hag says, that is what my decision is based on. It's based on principles. It is not about me and to be strict. No, this is in favour of the team. And I 100% agree with that. I really do, you know. I think that this is the most important thing that a manager's done for us in a long time. I really think it is. You know, we have to set this mentality now, because we're never going to get on the levels of the Manchester Cities and teams like that if you don't have this type of mentality. We saw last season, Joao Cancelo was out of the team for a few games. I think him and Pep Guardiola had some sort of argument because I assume Joao Cancelo was saying, why am I not in the team? And then Pep Guardiola just gets rid of him. Like, they loaned him out to Bayern Munich, didn't they? And now they've just loaned him out to Barcelona. Like, they haven't even got any money for him. They're loaning him out. And he's probably the best left back in the Premier League, or was it for a period. So that just shows that the levels that are being set over in Manchester, on the blue side of Manchester. And I'm not saying obviously that we want to be Manchester City, but I'm just saying that you can look at how their club's being ran and look at that as a model of how a proper football club should be run. I think we can all agree on that. Right, let's see what people are saying in the comment section. Luma says, does that mean we never did any research on Sancho when buying them? I mean, it seems like that, mate. That's the biggest question mark for me is, how did John Murtough, Richard Arnold and all those other people not know the kind of character that Jadon Sancho was before they brought him in? Did they think that maybe they could change him? Did they think that maybe he'd matured over in Germany? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. And I think it is one that's it's one that needs to be asked, really, because I don't understand how they could be so incompetent to think that somebody who has had disciplinary issues at Manchester City, left because of that, then went to Dortmund, had disciplinary issues, and then was just going to come to Manchester United and suddenly be, this perfect person. Yeah, a little bit strange. Let's see what everyone else is saying in the comment section. Al says, everyone loves Erik ten Hag, but he is useless at transfers. He is not a director of football and doesn't know the player market. I agree with that. I do. I wouldn't say he's useless at transfers, but I would agree that Erik ten Hag shouldn't be doing the transfers, right? He is not a director of football. At Ajax, he had a director of football above him who used to do all of the transfers. I think it was Mark Overmars, I think. Let me double check that. Yeah, so was it a Mark Overmars? Yeah, so it was Mark Overmars and Alfred Schroeder. That was obviously the manager, wasn't it? And he just got sacked. Yeah, so I completely agree. Like, we shouldn't be getting Erik ten Hag to be signing the players. I definitely agree with that, 110%. We need a proper director of football. Who that will be, I don't know. But I don't think until we get new owners, I don't think that will be the case. Because at the moment, John Murtough, Richard Arnold, they're probably rubbing their hands thinking, how the hell have we landed this job, Neither of them are really football people. They're more coming from the banking, finance, business side of things. And they've landed probably one of the top 3 football jobs in world football, haven't they? And they probably don't really know what they're doing, to be honest, do they? There's definitely people who are way more qualified from a footballing perspective. From a business finance side, I'd say they're probably doing a great job. The same with Ed Woodward. From a commercial side, Ed Woodward did amazing for Manchester United, So, yeah, it's one of those ones, isn't it? Let's see what else everyone else is saying. Paul Griffith says, Fred says, I have no problem with Erik ten Hag as a manager. It's the way he's dealing with things that's beginning to worry me. The football is playing second fiddle. I get it, Fred. I do, because, things can change very, very fast in football. You know that Erik ten Hag has my full support. I fully back him. But if we lose the game against Brighton today, right, and then say we lose against Bayern in the week, not from me, but from the media, there will definitely be pressure on him, 100%. If we lose at Brighton today and then we lose against Bayern Munich away on Wednesday, I definitely think there'll be pressure on him. I'm not saying he'll get sacked, but I wouldn't be surprised if, there's people in certain media outlets will be kind of starting to have those conversations. I mean, our next 3 games are Brighton at home, Bayern Munich away, and Burnley away. So we should be able to beat Brighton at home and we should be able to beat Burnley away. But imagine we lose to Brighton today, lose to Bayern away, which is probably realistic, and then lose to Burnley. Then there's going to be serious question marks asked, isn't there, if we lost our next 3 games? And the reason I bring this up is because obviously things can change very, very quickly, Imagine if that does happen, then it will almost make Jadon Sancho look better, won't it? Because people will be then focusing on, is Erik ten Hag the right man? Blah, blah, blah. Is he treating Jadon Sancho fairly? Whereas at the moment, I think he's in quite a good position. Obviously, he has the fans' trust. He had a great season last year, Erik ten Hag. Achieved way more than I ever would have dreamt of. Obviously, the Arsenal game was disappointing, but I wouldn't say that we deserved to lose that game personally. I think a draw would have been fair. Let's see what people are saying in the comment section. Luma says, Kieran, could Erik ten Hag have handled the Sancho situation better by not saying anything about him to the press? Or was it the frustrations of losing to Arsenal that forced him to do so? That's a great question. Thank you for that, Lumen. I think there's a mixture of both. I think he could have handled it better. I think he obviously was frustrated after losing to Arsenal. As I said, I don't think we deserved to lose to Arsenal. I think a draw would have been fair. But I also think there was the last roll of the dice from Erik ten Hag. I think he had tried every possible option away from the public eye. He let him go off for 2 or 3 months to recoup mentally and physically last summer. He gave him lots of chances. You'd always see him putting his arm around him, like trying to comfort him, whatever it might be. And I think this was the last roll of the dice. I think he thought, right, if it's not going to work this other way, which is me giving you support off the pitch, letting you have time away from everything, then I'm going to have to kind of mention it, because he was probably at boiling point, because, he just lost the game, and then they're like, oh, why did you not pick Jadon Sancho? And he probably thought, you know what? I'm done protecting him. I'm just going to tell them how it is. He didn't train properly, and he's not been picked for that reason. And you know what? Everyone's human. Yes, maybe he should have kept him to himself, but I think that Erik ten Hag reached boiling point, and I think that Erik ten Hag probably was within his right to let us know what was actually going on. And I actually respect him in some ways, because I think as fans, we're shielded from stuff so much. Like, we're left in the dark about everything, about every decision. We never know what's going on. And I think it was important for us to know what was happening with Jadon Sancho, because we knew he wasn't injured. We knew he wasn't ill. So where was he? Like, we deserve to know. So there's two ways to look at it. Some people would say, yes, he should have just spoke to him personally. But you know what, right? He might have already spoken to Jadon Sancho. He might have said, Jadon, you're not going to be in the team because you haven't trained hard enough. And maybe Jadon was just like, brushed it off like, ugh, We don't know what happened to get Erik to that point of coming out publicly. So, yeah, I don't think it was the wrong thing for him to do. I get some people are a bit like, he should have handled it differently. But, yeah, I don't have a massive issue with it. Kiki says, I feel Erik ten Hag is doing the right thing. Most of these players are not disciplined at all. Mate, 100%. I think this is exactly what needs to happen at Manchester United, because, as I said, under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, it was an absolute joke. People could just get away with whatever they wanted. People they had their favourites. Everyone was smiling. Everyone was happy. I don't think there was any discipline going on. Like, if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer shouted at you, would you take him seriously after he's like every press conference he's like laughing and like, do you know what I mean? I don't know. Let's see what else. So someone says, can we really blame Erik ten Hag about signing players when you have John Murtough and Richard Arnold as people in charge of football? What were we expecting? Yeah, 100%. 100%, mate. 1,000%. He should never have even been in the conversation of who to sign. That should be up to the director of football, right? What would usually happen in a competent club, right? A director of football would come with maybe a list of 10 players, and they'd say, these are the 10 profiles that we've identified for the positions that you've said you need. They'd go to the manager. The manager would probably say which ones of those lists they like the most, and then they'd go and try and sign them. That's how it would work usually. They wouldn't just say, Erik, here's 200 million. Here's 200 million. Go and buy whoever you want. Like, that just never happens, does it? As far as I'm aware. Let's see what Emmy says. This is what Ten Hag will do today. He will start Garnacho on the right, Højlund in the middle, and Rashford on the left. I mean, I'm into it. I think Pellistri's going to start the game today. Let's talk a little bit about the game today, guys. Everybody get in the comment section and let me know what your score prediction is for the Brighton game. 3 o'clock kickoff. I'm going with a 2-1 Manchester United win. I think Rashford will score. I think Rasmus Højlund will score. And I think that Evan Ferguson's going to score. I think it's going to be a tight game. I think maybe Brighton will be the better side, but I think we are going to scrape it and we're going to get a win. We haven't lost at home in 30 games. Let's not let today be that game where we lose. I think the last time was against Brighton. I think the first game of the season last year. I think that was the last time we've lost at home, as far as I'm aware. But let me know if I'm wrong there, and let me know what your score predictions are. And everybody's just joined in the last couple of minutes, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel if you're new. I've just dropped a link in the chat to subscribe. We're less than 20 subscribers away from 18,500. So please do go and subscribe now. Let's try and hit 18,500 subscribers by the end of today's video. United Trend says, at some point last season, Liverpool didn't play well, but they stick with Jurgen Klopp and finally finished 5th. We should be backing Erik ten Hag for now, no matter the situation. Yeah, I 100% agree with you, mate. I do. I think that Erik ten Hag has earned our trust. He's earned our support. And I think that people who are saying, get Erik ten Hag out and all the rest of it, I think it's way too premature for that. For me, at the end of the season, like, we can have that conversation. We can see how this season went. We can see whether we're playing a better style of football. Because you know what? My goal for this season was for Manchester United to play a better way of football. More attacking, more dominating. To play Erik ten Hag ball, because we haven't seen that really, have we, at Manchester United yet? We've seen very pragmatic, defensive style of football, which, you know what? I understand. Football is a results business. If Erik ten Hag went out, well, we saw what happened when he tried to play Erik ten Hag ball, didn't we? The first 2 games of the season last year, we tried to play Erik ten Hag ball, passing out from the back, high possession, attacking football, and we got beaten by Brighton and we got thrashed by Brentford. So, yeah, maybe it's that he doesn't have the right set of players. Maybe that it's just going to take a long time to instill, his philosophy and his tactics within the squad. We don't know exactly what's going on behind the scenes. Al says, is Amrabat injured? We'll talk about Amrabat in a minute, mate. Just see if there's any more questions on... Ginge says, when you give a 21-year-old £18 million a year contract when he wasn't even on a third of that at Dortmund, what do we expect? We've created a monster by giving him that salary. I 100% agree with you, mate. I 100% agree, right? People look at Brighton and people like that and they say, oh, Brighton are doing so well. It's all because of the manager. It's all because of that. I don't think it is just because of the manager. I think it's because of their recruitment. They bring in these young, hungry players, right? Moises Caicedo was on £5,000 per week at Brighton. 5. Like, that is ridiculous. £5,000 a week. I know that's still a lot of money to most of us here, right? But £5,000 a week. He's on 200 grand a week at Chelsea now. And the reason I bring this in is, I'm not saying that footballers aren't motivated generally, but imagine you come to the Premier League from Ecuador, is it? He's from? Yeah, from Ecuador. Come to the Premier League from Ecuador and you're on £5,000 a week. Okay, you know that the next step, if you perform well every single game, is that you get a move to Chelsea, to Manchester United, to Liverpool, to Arsenal, where you will then earn the 150 to 200 grand a week kind of wages. I mean, how much is Matoma on a week? I mean, I'm going to look at this and it's going to probably make my blood boil, isn't it? So, oh my God. What? Oh my... I literally cannot believe this. Is this the same Matoma? It is. So Matoma, right? I would say probably one of the best wingers in the Premier League at the moment. Would everybody agree on that? At this moment, based on form and based on last season. So Brighton's Matoma, like, you're not going to believe this, is on £10,000 per week. 10. Jadon Sancho is on £350,000 per week. He's on 35 times the amount of money that Matoma's on. I mean, just let that sink in for a minute. And when you're thinking about all of these conversations about why Manchester United are in this rut, why the players come here and they don't perform and people call them a flop and then they leave, this is exactly why. Matoma comes in, he's on 10 grand a week, and every single game he wants to go out there and prove himself, because he's probably thinking, if I do this, game on game, maybe next season a Liverpool, a Manchester United, a Man City might come in for me, and then I'll earn the big bucks, It just sums it up. And it all goes down to not the management. It all goes down to the owners, to the recruitment, to everything else. I literally can't believe that. I literally cannot believe that. £10,000 a week for Matoma, £5,000 a week for Moises Caicedo at Brighton, and we've got Jadon Sancho sat here on 350 grand a week. And we're all questioning how this has happened. What's gone wrong? I mean, we've just answered that question in one sentence, haven't we? Like, that is ridiculous. I would say Matoma's a better player than Sancho any day of the week, at the moment anyway. I'd say Moises Caicedo is one of the best centre midfielders in the Premier League in that kind of young up and coming market, and they were earning nothing. £10,000 a week. I've got the wages thing up here. I've got the official website that shows you all of the wages for every single player. It says Matoma signed a 4-year contract. He's earning an annual average salary of £520,000 per year, right? So Matoma's nearly earning a year what Sancho earns in a week, 520 grand a year, which works out £10,000. And he's got a salary cap of 520 grand, so it can't even go above that. Like, there's no added bonuses. There's no, if you score a goal, you get this. He gets 520 grand a year. That's it. I mean, that is mad, isn't it? Absolutely crazy. People in the chat are saying that I'm making it up. Just go on Google and have a look for yourself. I mean, that's crazy. Yeah, that's absolutely mad. Anyway, let's see what everybody's saying. Somebody says £5,000. Are you serious? Yeah, Moises Caicedo was on, literally, just Google it. Moises Caicedo, wages, Brighton. He might have got a new contract, but I know when he first joined, he was on 5. Have a look. Because obviously Manchester United were interested in Moises Caicedo, weren't they? So he's on 150 grand a week now at Chelsea, Moises Caicedo. Crazy. Let's see what else everyone is saying. Darren says we could have got 35 Matomas. I know, that's mad, isn't it? To think that you could have paid the salary of 35 Matomas for the same price as one Jadon Sancho. Like, that is absolutely nuts. It's stuff like this that just blows my head wide open. And people say, oh, why are Brighton so good? Oh, their manager's world class and all the rest of it. And I say, like, it's a completely different scenario, okay? They've got players who have come from, you know, Ecuador. Where was Matoma before? I mean, I'd never heard of Matoma before he came to Brighton, you know? They bring in these players who no one's ever heard of. They give them small salaries. You know, still £10,000 is a lot of money per week for, you know, for most people, but they give them small amounts of money compared to obviously the big people. Yeah, so he came from Belgium, Union Saint, I don't know how you say that name, but he came from Belgium. How much did they sign him for? Anyway, that's mad. That's completely blown my head open. Completely blown my head open. Could you start showing your laptop screen if you can? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'll think about that. Darren says Matoma needs a new agent. My point here is, though, right? Matoma, whether Brighton fans want to hear it or not, Matoma is playing for his future. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, he wants to play good football and all the rest of it, but you know that in the back of Matoma's head, he's thinking, if I keep going the way I am, I'll get my move to Liverpool. I'll get my move to Man City. I'll get my move to Manchester United, and he'll be on 150 grand a week. That's how it works in football. And, you know, Brighton are just this feeder club where they bring in players, they then sell them for more money, and that's just all they do, okay? And it just repeats over and over again. Whereas Manchester United bring in players for stupid amounts of money, give them stupid wages, and then it just goes badly, doesn't it? Ginge says Matoma would be our best player. Yeah, Matoma is an unbelievable player. I'm honestly shocked by that. It's completely thrown me off a little bit, to be honest. So I do apologise if I've gone a bit wayward on this part of the show, but I'm just in shock that Matoma is only on 10 grand a week. Somebody says, how old is Matoma? Matoma is 26 years of age. So I'm just trying to find out how much he cost. So he only cost Brighton... So he cost Brighton €3 million. 26 years of age. Unbelievable. Obviously, he's in the Japanese national team now. I would take Matoma any day of the week. I 100% would. Luma says, Kieran, does this mean that money is spoiling football? I wouldn't say money is spoiling football. I would say that the people running clubs are spoiling football. The people who don't know how to run the clubs properly. You know, you think of our owners. You think of, you know, John Murtagh, Richard Arnold. You also then think of people like Todd Bowley. You know, just throwing money around, like stupid money. Like, those are the people who are ruining football, in my opinion. Whereas Brighton are a prime example of how to run a football club. Like, unbelievable model. Bring in these young players. I mean, how much is Evan Ferguson on? I know I've got off on a bit of a tangent here, but this whole thing's just completely blown my head open. So Evan Ferguson, he's just signed a new contract, hasn't he, Evan Ferguson? So, I mean, that can't be right. All right, hold on. I'm just going to check how much Evan Ferguson is on. I do think this is all quite interesting. So Evan Ferguson has just signed a new contract, right? And he's on 20 grand a week on this new contract. Estupinan is on 50 grand a week, and he's probably one of the best left backs in the Premier League, isn't he? Like that Enciso guy, 10 grand a week. Matoma, 10 grand a week. Absolutely crazy. That's mad, isn't it? It just shows where we are, and we've just given, we've just given Marcus Rashford, I think, 300 grand a week. Sancho's on 350 grand a week. And then you've got Evan Ferguson, just scored his first Premier League hat-trick a couple of weeks ago, on 20 grand a week on a new contract. It's absolutely mad, isn't it? I don't really understand. Obviously, it's a completely different kettle of fish, as I've said to you guys before. Manchester United is the equivalent of a 5-star hotel by way of money, the amount of money we have, the amount of resources we have, whereas Brighton is like a 1-star hotel, isn't it? Based on football finance power. Like, we have a lot of money, they don't. But things can change, in football. Everybody's just joined in the last couple of minutes. Please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe. We're only 17 subscribers away from 18,500. So please do subscribe if you haven't already. Let's see what everybody is saying in the comments section. Satino says, why didn't Manchester United go for Fati on loan from Barcelona? I mean, yeah, that would have been a good option, especially now that we've lost Sancho and we've lost Antony. Like, it would have been a very sensible option to look at Ansu Fati. But whether he'll start today or not, I'm not sure. I don't think he will. But we'll have to wait and see. What's everyone else saying? United Way says, would you start Martial on the right wing? You know what? I actually quite like Anthony Martial on the wing. So maybe. I think Pellistri deserves to get the chance today, but I wouldn't be against seeing Anthony Martial play in that right wing position, to be honest. I think that would be quite solid. But let me know in the comment section, guys. Would you like to see Anthony Martial get some game time on the right wing for Manchester United? Gabriel says, I heard Rashford was on 375. I mean, if he is, that's crazy. Lumen says, Kieran, on a lighter note, will you let us know how much you make per week? Well, I don't make anything near any of those types of money. I'll tell you that. That's all I'll tell you. Nothing anywhere near that. Al says, we pay higher wages than Real Madrid and City. The club is a joke. Yeah. I mean, you know what? We are doing better, though, I think. You know, you bring in people like Amrabat, Højlund, Martinez. All of these people are on reasonable salaries. I think Anthony's on a really big salary, which I don't really get. I think Anthony was on about 20 grand a week at Ajax, and we've put him on 200. That doesn't really make a lot of sense to me personally, but obviously, let's have a look. So Anthony is on at Manchester United. Yeah, he's on 200 grand a week at Manchester United. He was on 20 grand a week at what are they called? Ajax. Yeah, so let me just have a look here. So yeah, Sancho's on 350. Rashford's on 300. Casemiro's on 300. Rafael Varane is on 340 grand a week. I mean, that is ridiculous. Considering his injury record, that is really poor. 340 grand a week for, yeah. Ben says, all the people talking about De Zerbi taking over Manchester United are oblivious to the fact that he's successful because the machine behind him is solid. Mate, I 100% agree with you. 110% agree with you. Brighton are so good because of their recruitment, because of their directors of football. Go and watch some videos of the director of football at Brighton. Like, I've watched quite a few. He did one on... It wasn't on The Overlap. It was on another YouTube channel. I can't remember what it was called, but if you type in Brighton director of football interview, go and watch him speak. Like, it is unbelievable. Like, the levels that they set, how they do things. Like, he said they've already got, like, 3 managers lined up for the job if De Zerbi was to go. Like, because they always know that there's a chance that one of their managers, one of their players is going to go. So even when Moises Caicedo went, they had a replacement, you know, from a smaller club, not in Europe, available for 5 million that they then went and bought. Like, they have all of these things lined up. They have every possible outcome, you know, sorted. They don't ever find themselves in these sticky situations because they're running like 2 or 3 years ahead of where they are at the moment. They have every possible outlook answered. But let's just hope we beat them today, because we can all sit here and say how well Brighton are run, but at the end of the day, we've got a game of football. We need to go and beat them today. Ben says, so we gave Anthony an extra 180 grand a week to come to Manchester United. Yes, we did. Jay says, who else noticed Erik ten Hag having issues with players above £300,000 a week? Ronaldo, De Gea, and now Sancho. I don't think you can really highlight that because he had issues with Harry Maguire, didn't he? He didn't play Harry Maguire. So yeah, I don't think that's very fair. But I think the thing I will say on that is maybe he just looks at it like we do. You know, he sees Jadon Sancho on 350 grand a week, not even turning up to training on time, not even performing when he's in training. And maybe he sat there thinking, you know what? You're the highest earning player in the club. I do have a problem with you because you're not even putting in half the effort that you should be. You've got other people like Pellistri, who's probably on an absolute fraction of that amount of money, right? And he's giving it 110% every single game. Pellistri's on £20,000 a week. That's more like it. 20 grand a week for Pellistri. Jadon's on 350. Amad Diallo, 28 grand a week. Again, that's more like it. Do you know what I mean? You're getting the picture here of where we should be actually paying these types of players. Let's have a look what people are saying. David says, our players are massive earners for our club through branding. Do you think Sancho is, though? Like, genuinely? I'm not sure that Jadon Sancho brings in loads of branding money, but maybe I'm wrong. Jay says, yes, he said salary cap one time, and I think he wants to get rid of them. Yeah, I think so as well. I think he does want to kind of have a whole refresh where he just gets rid of all these high earners. I mean, as I said, right, when you actually look at our highest earners, I think most of them will be gone in the next few years, right? So Jadon Sancho, 350 grand a week, he'll be gone. Rafael Varane's got 2 years left of his contract. He's on 340 grand a week. He'll then be gone. Casemiro, 31 years of age. I reckon he'll be gone at the end of his contract. Marcus Rashford obviously will stay. Anthony Martial will be gone in the summer, 250 grand a week. So within a year or two, our highest earning player will probably be about 250 grand a week. Whereas at the moment, there's 5 players above 250 grand a week. So I can see what Erik ten Hag is doing here. He is pushing out those really big earners who ultimately aren't justifying their pay. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Right. We've got one more bit to talk about really, really quickly, and that is Sofyan Amrabat. So Erik ten Hag was asked about Sofyan Amrabat in the interview that came out late last night. And he said that obviously he won't be featuring in the game against Brighton today because he has still got a minor injury, which I know everyone is very, very disappointed about. Obviously, I'm disappointed about that. I was really looking forward to seeing Sofyan Amrabat play. I feel like we've been speaking about him for about 3 months and I've still not seen him play for Manchester United. So he says, unfortunately, he came back with an injury, so he will not be available for the game tomorrow. But the thing that I found really interesting was apparently Sofyan Amrabat can play right back and left back as well. That's what Erik ten Hag's just come out and said. Seems a bit strange to me. It came as a bit of a shock to me. I don't really understand how we could put Sofyan Amrabat as a right back or a left back, but apparently he can play there. So that was the shock bit of news. But I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. Thank you so much to everyone who has watched the show today. Of course, we will be live at 2:30 UK time for the Manchester United versus Brighton watch along. I'm praying we get a good result. We need to win this game. We really, really do. Before you leave, please do smash a like on the video. Please do subscribe to the channel if you are new. This has been Daily Red Devil. I've been Kieran, and I'll catch you all later.